stewardship. We began last Sunday by reminding each other that the main purpose, the main focus of being a Christian is to be as much like Jesus as we can. Another way of saying that is that one of our primary purposes in life as a disciple of Jesus Christ is to do the things in life that Jesus would have us do. That's not always clear. Sometimes it's way too clear. I like the story of the two brothers that got up on Saturday morning and their mom was making them pancakes. They began to argue over who would get the first pancake. And the mother in her Christian wisdom said, "Boys, if Jesus was here, Jesus would give the first pancake to his brother." To which the older brother, Johnny, shared with his younger brother, "Alex, okay, Alex, today it's your turn to be Jesus." Well, it often is easier to want someone else to be like Jesus for us rather than for us to challenge ourselves to be like Jesus. Part of the problem is we have to search and find out what indeed Jesus would have us do. And one of the places we look for that, of course, is the Holy Bible, our scriptures. And today we're going to look at 3 passages to discern what it is Jesus might have us do in the area of giving. The first passage we're going to look at is the book of Hebrews, a great book. And we see this wonderful words that we know so well. When the writer of Hebrews says, "Keep your eyes upon Jesus." We write hymns to that theme. Focus on Jesus, listen to Jesus, watch Jesus, and head in the direction that Jesus wants you to go. Now, especially helpful to look at this reading in Hebrews, the verse that occurs right before the verse that Kathy read this morning. Because the words start by saying, "We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Let us run the race that is set before us." Wonderful image of life as a race. We don't always know what that race is going to bring us, do we? We don't always know what it is in life. I'm not sure I can do it, Jared. My hearing aids are giving me feedback. Thanks. We're not always sure what the race is going to bring us, are we? Never sure. The bumps and the curves and the rough places and the smooth places. But we know that there have been people that have run the race before us. We know that there are people that are running the race with us. And we know that there will be people in the future that will run the race after us. That's what the writer of Hebrews is saying. He's saying, we're all connected in this. I like to view life as a rather continuous relay race. That kind of race where they pass the baton. Our job in life is to receive the baton that's passed to us, to run the race, and to pass the baton on to the next runner. Except it's a race that keeps going. We're constantly receiving from those who give to us. And we're constantly carrying the baton. And we're constantly giving the baton to someone else to carry with us. I like the imagery that Hebrews provides, a great imagery of life as a race. And sometimes life feels like a race, doesn't it? Except that it's the kind of race that is a chaotic, busy, sometimes lacking direction kind of race. Do you ever catch yourself just doing something and you don't really know what direction you're headed or where you're going or what you're doing? You're just doing it because it's got to get done. Isn't life like that sometimes? Hebrews says, Here's what I suggest you do. Focus on Jesus. Look to Jesus. Set your eyes and your hearts and your life upon Jesus. Follow Jesus, and you will be okay. That's what the writer says. He says, whatever you go through in life, if you put your eyes upon Jesus and focus upon Jesus, you will get through anything in life. Last Sunday, there were 6 of us that had the privilege of hearing Bishop Robert Snazy share 2 workshops in Topeka last Sunday. His most famous book that he has written is this 5 Practices of Fruitful Congregations up there on the left. The other book that he wrote is the book that we're using as our devotional for our stewardship campaign. If you haven't got it yet, it's available at the table back there, free, 1 per household. Please take a moment to pick up your book if you haven't got it yet. We're in beginning week 4. You can do some catch up and begin week 4 tomorrow. It's a wonderful book. In the second week of devotions in this book, on the Tuesday of the second week, Bishop Snazy uses this passage from Hebrews that we read this morning to talk about canoeing or whitewater rafting. Now, I've not been whitewater rafting. I have been canoeing. Some of us here this morning have canoed together as part of our church trip a few years ago down to Missouri. But when I read this question, I resonated the question that his son asked in this devotion. I resonated with it because his son asked the guide that was leading them in the boat down this whitewater rafting experience. He said, you know, if the water's moving us downstream, why do we need to paddle? I used to think that when I would get in the canoe on those Missouri rivers and when they were actually moving water, and I would sit there thinking, well, the water's going to take us downstream. Why do we have to work and paddle? And I love the answer that the guide gave this boy and the answer that I've received over the years when I've asked that question. I'm going to read the answer from the devotional that the guide gave this young man. The guide smiled and said, the only way we have any control over the direction we are going is for us to be moving just a little faster than the current below us. So we have to paddle constantly, or else we just get pushed along out of control. If we want to navigate with purpose and to control our direction rather than becoming a victim to forces beyond our control, we have to keep paddling. I like that image. I like the image of paddling so that we might have some control over the direction that we're going, and that we might keep just a bit ahead of that moving water that always has the possibility of taking us in a strange direction. I think it's similar, as Bishop Snazy says, with our giving and our generosity. We really can't be alive without giving in some way. All of us, at many points in our lives, give of ourselves. The question that is being offered this morning is, how do we choose to be generous in our giving in order that our lives might be transformed by God? Read another quote from a different devotion in the same book. This is from the Thursday of the first week. Bishop Snazy says, God uses our practice of giving to reconfigure our interior life. By giving, we craft a different inner desire as the driving element of our life. Our motivations change. He says further, giving moderates the powerful and sometimes destructively insatiable drive for acquisition. in the daily interior struggle fostered by a consumerist, materialistic society that pressures us to pursue many things that do not lead to real happiness. The practice of giving aims us at what ultimately satisfies. Giving sanctifies and deepens the struggle and constantly resets the internal compass in the right direction. Generosity becomes a tool God uses to draw us closer to God and to align us more closely with God's desire for us. And then he asks two questions, as he does at the end of every devotional. He says, have you ever given over and beyond your normal tithe or pattern of giving? And if so, what was the experience like? And then he asks, do you find the more you give, the more likely you are to give? He says, why or why not? Does generosity cause more generosity? Well, according to Jesus, it does. In our second reading from the Gospel of Luke, it's exactly what Jesus says. He starts out by saying, don't pick on people. He says, go easy on people. And life will be a lot easier for you if you're nice to people. Good words of wisdom there. Those of you that were here last Sunday heard me tell the story of a woman, wonderful woman, part of a church in Lawrence when I was a campus minister there. She didn't particularly like the stewardship sermon that was preached, and right there in front of the whole congregation, as she was coming out of the sanctuary, in front of everybody, she ripped the minister apart. It was a very ugly scene. I shared that with you last week, and the one thing I didn't share was my thought at the time thinking, what a sad way to live life. Even if the minister was wrong, ripping someone apart is not a good way to live life. Jesus says the same thing is true with generosity. If you're nice to people, it builds upon itself. If you're generous, generosity builds upon itself. Generosity begets generosity. Being nice with people helps people be nice with others. Let's see if it's true. Let's take a little test this morning. Now this test is going to involve a hypothetical event. Okay? Let's say, for instance, that a married couple receives the winnings from a humongous lottery. Now, you know how lotteries are paid off. Lotteries, $1-million lotteries are paid off where you get several $100,000 per year for like 20 years or so. You pay a huge amount in taxes, but you get several $100,000 each year over many years. But that's not the hypothetical part. That actually happens. Hypothetical part is that this couple is a part of this church. Now, they win that multi-million-dollar one, and they get several $100,000 per year for 20 years, and their decision is that they're going to keep about 25% of that each year. That's a good enough amount to live on, gives them some money to buy some extra things that they've kind of wanted, but they're going to donate 75% to the church and to charities. That actually happens sometimes too. I've read where some people choose to do that with their lottery winnings. The hypothetical part, though, is that they're a part of this church. And their plan is to give $150,000, $200,000 per year to this church. Just about the same as our annual budget. The question is, this is the test, how would that affect your giving? What would you do differently, if anything, with your giving? Let's look at some options. Option number one, and Jake's going to put these up here as I share them. Option number one, stop giving. Option number two, reduce giving. Option number three, keep your giving at the same level you're currently giving. Option number 4, increase your giving. And option number 5, finally, a hot tub with all sorts. You knew I had to throw that in there somewhere, didn't you? Jake, take us back to the 4 serious possibilities there. Option number 1, stop giving. There's enough to cover the budget and more. And I've been wanting to do some personal projects, do some things, and what an opportunity. The budget's taken care of. Now I can keep some money and spend some money on myself. Option number 2, reduce giving. You know, it's probably good to keep giving some, but certainly not as much as I've been giving because the budget's covered and I got some projects I want to do, so I'll keep giving a little bit, but I need some more money for it. Option number 3, keep giving at the same level. I'm doing okay now, I'm not stretched too far, my giving's fine for the church, and wow, if I keep giving at my level, yeah, the budget will be covered, we'll be able to do some extra things, maybe some things I dreamed of in the church. And option number 4, increase your giving. Budget's covered, opportunity to really do some things that we have only dreamed about in this church, if indeed I increase my giving. Well, since we're talking about Jesus this morning, let's bring him into the picture. What do you think Jesus would want you to do? What do you think Jesus would call you to do in that situation? Now, Bishop Snazy would call option number 4 extravagant generosity. He defines extravagant generosity as this: practices of sharing and giving that exceed all expectations and extend to unexpected measures. Jesus says generosity begets generosity, which means those generous hypothetical folks from this church who came into that money might indeed be giving us a lot more than just money, mightn't they? They might be modeling for us what it means to be generous. A model which means that they're focusing on what really matters, what really satisfies, not in all the stuff that they can accumulate and all the trinkets that they can buy, but focusing on what really matters. Paul talks about that in his letter to Timothy, our 3rd reading. He says that's how we gain life that is truly life, by giving it. It is what we want for ourselves, isn't it? And maybe more importantly, it's what we want to model for our children, isn't it? An ability to focus on what really matters, not all the stuff we can accumulate and store up. Paul says we'll store all that stuff up and it's just going to rot. Paul says be rich in helping others, be rich in giving, be rich in sharing. Be extravagantly generous, and then you will gain a life that is truly life. Last Sunday I shared with the children's moment, and I had some coins that I gave to them, you remember. I had some quarters, I had some gold dollar quarters. And I gave them to them and I said, I have a lot of joy giving you this because I want you to just spend it in any way you want. And it gives me much joy to give you this and for you to have this. Last Wednesday, as I was preparing for Wednesday worship here, I went up to get the offering plate. And I came up to get the offering plate to take it back to the door, and there, in the middle of the offering plate, as it still is a quarter. Now, I don't know exactly what happened, because I wasn't here to see it. But I have an image of what might have happened. My image is that one of our children here, maybe a child that's here this morning and maybe a child that's not here this morning, made a decision. made a decision, and they said to themselves, you know, I got plenty of quarters. My mom and dad give me quarters all the time. I'm going to give this to a higher purpose. I'm going to give this quarter back to God. And they came up the aisle here after worship, and all the other money had been taken to be counted already, and the plates were empty. They came up here, and they climbed up the stairs. Maybe they had an adult or a parent with them. Maybe they didn't. They climbed up here, and they placed that quarter in the offering plate, and they felt joy. They felt joy because they were connecting to a higher purpose. I want to thank that child. I don't know who it is. But what a wonderful model you have given to us in life. And I thank you. I have an announcement to share with you this morning. You know, when you are sometimes sitting in your house and you're saying, boy, I wish I could win the lottery. Maybe this morning you're wishing that more than ever. I want to announce to you that you have won the lottery. Every single one of you have already won. Look around you. Did you see the sun rise this morning? Beautiful. Did you see the sunset last night? Did you have food on your table this morning for breakfast? Did your car, or whatever shape it's in, bring you to this place this morning? Did you walk in the door or come in the door, even rolling, even strolling, even in pain? Did you come here this morning? Did you ever look around you at this sanctuary, at this building? Did you ever look around you at your home? We've won the lottery. We've won it already. We won it the moment that God put us into the river of life and said, here you go, this is yours. And gave us these boats or bodies to carry us down that river of life. They're not perfect. They do strange things sometimes. But they carry us through life. And then God does the best thing. God gives us a very special paddle to help us direct our boat and to propel us down that river of life. God says, I didn't give you all that just for you to sit there and say, I've got it all. God said, generosity begets generosity. What you've given, you can now give to others. A special pattern and a special reminder that as we journey down the river of life, these words, keep paddling, and God will bring us miraculous things in life, which we can share. Would you pray with me?